In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips on overcoming or dealing with addictions. This was requested by a subscriber by the name of Justin R. And I'm going to be covering soft addictions like video games, app games, candy, YouTube. Justin even suggested all these, and porn. So these are soft addictions. If you have a hard addiction like drugs or hard drugs, that's something to consult a professional or an organization for. Yes, there's definitely similarities there, but this video is intended for students and people who are trying to do better in school or just better in life. Those young high school kids who just want to stop playing as many video games and study more. So that's what I'll be covering. Okay, so tip number 1. I really like using social media blockers or timers. It's a good way of rewarding yourself and actually having some system that actually restrict access. I think that, as James Clear says, controlling your environment is key to really taking control of your habits. And so there's some free extensions. There's even some apps that cost only like $2, like Forest. But there's free browser extensions as well that will kind of block any social media websites, or at least put a timer on them until you finish your deep work, and then you can focus on, watching YouTube or whatever else you want to do. Tip number 2. Rather than just tools like blockers, out of sight means out of mind. And let's get creative with that. That doesn't just mean put your video game controller in the closet and lock it. That's definitely one way of doing it. You can also move yourself out of the environment. I've been taking short, socially distant walks lately, and it's really been refreshing. The fresh air, it's healthy, I get moving a bit. That actually really does some justice. And I found every time that I move out and do something, whether that's to join a sports club or some type of activity, maybe it was track and field one year for me. Another time, even nowadays, it's going to exercise and lift weights and learn how to do a barbell clean properly. Those are things that once you're physically out of the house, you're mentally out of the house, you're not going to be thinking about video games or anything that's kind of taking up your time or you don't want to do as much. So that's number 3. And yeah, I'm going pretty fast because I found that in terms of video duration and watch time, you have to move quickly through these tips. I love to talk, but I got to go quick. Number 4, the 4th tip is on basically how you can really change sustainably. I spent many years and years trying to change many habits that didn't work because I believe I used the wrong techniques. And I think one of them was sleep. Sleep was one where I wanted to kind of, wake up earlier. And some things didn't work, some things did. One thing I've realized is that you have to give yourself a little bit of kind of relaxation time to actually indulge in, that video game that you wanted to do or whatever else it is. Because, and this goes into the study from the book Willpower by Roy Baumeister, but the way our brains work, if you're strictly using willpower, that muscle, to just basically use your mind to force yourself to get off something, especially if you're very addicted already and you're already spending hours, going from like 6 hours a day of video games or something crazy to like 0, you can only do that for so long before your willpower just breaks out, and then you overcompensate and indulge again. And the book actually went into all these details, which I don't have time to explain here, but it's a great they have some great examples of holidays, even like Mardi Gras, that were possibly theorized to have been invented as a day of overindulgence to prepare for those months of kind of holiness, or whatever you want to call it, restraint. And that's a whole biological system. So I think a more gradual thing works well. let's take my love for candy. Rather than just jumping from that to zero sugar ever, that's too much of a jump. But if you can make small amounts, smaller jumps, you can really make bigger progress. Tip number 5. Now, you might think this tip is the same as tip number 4, but it's subtly different, and that's the key. So in the book, Mindless Eating, it's a nutrition book. One of the big tips that was given, and that it's probably the most scientific book on nutrition I've ever read. There's like studies every other page, and they're all very actionable, and it's fun to read. It's digestible. Great book if you want to get better at health and fitness. But one of the big points they made was use the mindless margin. And what this means is there's a certain margin of about 100 to 200 calories where if you reduce that in your diet, you don't even notice it. But in the long run, you end up losing about 10 to 20 pounds a year with that 100 to 200 pound deficit, assuming it's a deficit. So apply the same thing. Reduce, but do it in a way that is unnoticeable. That approach may work for some, and it may not work for others. As a disclaimer, these tips are not, end all be alls, but they are ideas or strategies that can help you succeed. Maybe study more in school and spend less time goofing off. I think, people are different. So some people, they like that gradual approach. Others, they like to go really ham. And only after, and I've seen this in real life, I've known people like this, only after they failed a few times doing that, then they may try a more gradual approach. Or they may succeed by just going ham, going from, 5 hours of video games to 0. That could work as well for some people. So obviously use your own personality to kind of test, but you're young, you have the chance to try both approaches here, and you might find something that works for you. As a little bonus tip, because I like to over deliver for that like, subscribe, whatever you want to call it. In terms of actually moving that to a point where you're happy with, ask yourself, what do you want out of life? What's stopping you from getting there? Why do you want it? Is that a strong enough motivator? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Sometimes if it's just money, 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 that's not really the right thing. Maybe it's because you really want to help people, or you really need this money to save your family, or maybe it's just, you want to make the world a better place, or you really enjoy this hobby. Having the right motivation can really make the biggest change. I've covered these studies in other videos, but having the right why in terms of your study can really help you study a little bit longer, get a little bit more done, and that can really translate into other areas such as kind of weaning off your addictions. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing, as Tom Brady says. So if you have if you're eating salads every single day, which I doubt anyone is, but that doesn't mean that's always healthy. It's okay to indulge maybe once a week in a donut. So same thing with your addictions, or what else, as long as they're not like harmful addictions like drugs. These can be something that can be added into your repertoire. And what I've done is I've kind of added it to the very end of my day. What I used to do in school was, I would say, get home, finish all your homework. It'll probably take you an hour max, especially in middle school and elementary school. It'll probably take you only an hour, which gives you 6 or 7 hours left to do whatever the heck you want. And then you can indulge and enjoy yourself. Obviously, some people can't do that, and that's a video for another day. There's going to be someone out there who says, well, my parents get home at this time, and then I can't play on the computer or play video games, and so that's the only time I can play, but then I feel too lazy to do homework. That's a video for another day. These are just some tips on addictions. So hopefully that helped. Best of luck in your school endeavors. Hope you get good grades.